The day has finally come. The Blaze conducts mass layoffs. So, The Blaze is Glenn Beck's network, his conservative network. Now, in 2016, they fired 40 people, but this week they let go of 20% of their staff. It's actually The Blaze and the affiliated, I think it's called Mercury Radio Network or something. So Glenn Beck's like affiliated company. 20% of their staff they're letting go. Now, this is something I saw coming. I saw it coming for a while. Many others saw it coming. And the reason we saw it coming is the various news reports on what was actually happening at The Blaze. For those of you who don't know, Glenn Beck basically went from Fox News and being on the cover of like Time magazine and stuff to getting fired because he was too extreme for Fox News with his conspiracy theories to launching his own network. And Glenn Beck, as well as Rush Limbaugh, by the way, and Mark Levin and some of these other guys, they're welfare cases. So what I mean by that is not government welfare, of course not, but they are projects of right-wing think tanks. So oftentimes with these right-wing pundits, they genuinely can't make it in the free market. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't other right-wing pundits who can't make it in the free market, because there are right-wing pundits who can make it. But these guys are not them. So they couldn't really make it in the free market. So what happens is they're subsidized. And they're subsidized by right-wing think tanks who are paying them basically to push the propaganda that the corporations want. Which is, you know, hey, always deregulate, always cut taxes for the rich. And then with guys like Beck and Limbaugh, do 8,000 conspiracies about Democrats and your audience eats it up. Your small audience eats it up. But what's happened is those right-wing think tanks have not really seen a return on investment. They give all this money to Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck and other right-wing commentators, and they go, what are we getting out of this? Their ratings suck. So there's no tangible benefit for us. So we're just taking money and giving it to them, and there's really no reason to do it. So for all of these shows, it's just a matter of time until they cut off the flow of cash. Now, usually what would happen is with shows like this, well, it's okay. They can make other revenue from commercials, from ads. Well, these shows have been so mired in scandal for so long because there's so many shitty things they said that advertisers ran from them at 1,000 miles an hour. Rush Limbaugh used to get advertisers. Then it got to the point where on his flagship station in New York, they had dead air in the commercial breaks. It was public service announcements and dead air because all the advertisers ran. In his case, it was specifically after the Sandra Fluke incident when he called a woman a whore because she wanted health insurance to cover, birth control. She called her a slut or something and did this stupid fucking rant. And advertisers were like, yeah, we're out. So they don't get advertisers. On Beck's network, if you look at his advertisers, it's like fucking, ammo companies and survival seeds and guns and like all the low-paying ads that can't prop up an entire network with a bunch of employees. So they don't generate money through ad revenue. They don't have that many people to do, some sort of membership or something. And most of their funding came from the welfare they're getting from right-wing think tanks. Well, as soon as those right-wing think tanks cut off the flow of cash, well, then they're fucked. And in the case of Beck, that's what's happening. And with Beck, it's actually a particularly interesting case because he, ever since the rise of Trump, has been more on the, no, I don't like Donald Trump, team. So you have this right-wing network, and then when you get a Republican president and a guy who got a lot of support, well, right there, half your audience is going to go, fuck you. Sure, the other half might be Ted Cruz people like you, Glenn, and be just as dumb, if not dumber, for supporting Ted Cruz. But you're saying fuck you to half your audience because he was really vocally against Trump. So it's hard for right-wing outlets to survive if they don't, like with Limbaugh, he plays it half and half with Trump. Like, sometimes I agree with him, sometimes I don't. But with Beck, he was more like, no, I don't like Trump. So he doesn't like Trump, but he loves Ted Cruz, so don't give him too much credit for not liking Trump because he likes the even worse guy, Ted Cruz. And half of his audience, which was already small to begin with, fled. Now the right-wing think tanks are cutting off the flow of money, so where are you going to go? You got no more tricks up your sleeve. And then on top of that, they're in a tremendous amount of debt. because they expanded too much. So for the longest time, The Blaze, Rush Limbaugh, these guys are a house of cards, man. Now, again, that doesn't mean there aren't right-wing outlets that aren't genuinely popular. Of course there are. Unfortunately, you can say, Alex Jones is very popular. He is. He gets decent numbers. And there are other ones too. But at least for Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, these guys are not popular. Glenn Beck had his heyday when he was on Fox News under the Obama administration. Rush Limbaugh had his heyday in the 90s. He still cites numbers from the 90s about his ratings, and they're nowhere near true. It's like 10% of that now. So TikTok, their time's running out. We have a 20% layoff, and there's definitely more to come.